Welcome back to the GreenLight Investor for the week ending February 19, 2016. Our goal at the GreenLight Investor is to provide a resource to make managing your 401k both a simple and easy process. We do this by using a worksheet that has red, green, and yellow cells that will help you decide when to buy, what to buy, and when to sell. This presentation is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be taken as personal investment advice. I'll be showing some examples, and the examples shown are exactly that. They're examples on how you can use this worksheet as an additional resource to make managing your 401k choices both simple and easy processes. If you need to take a moment to read the disclaimers, please pause the video right now and take a moment to read them. All right, with that said, let's go ahead and go right into our worksheet. On the left side of the worksheet, we show the investment choices available to you in your 401k. The different categories include the fund number, the fund symbol, the fund name, and a brief description of the funds. As you scroll down, you'll see that at the top we start out with the index funds, and then we go right into the satellite funds, which include the money market funds, the fixed income, U.S. growth and income, U.S. equity funds, international funds, and sector funds at the bottom. Generally, the more conservative funds are towards the top, starting with the money market, and as you go down to the sector funds, those tend to be a little bit more aggressive. Center section, each week we're going to highlight the performance numbers for the year to date, and this will include the closing price, month to date total return, quarter to date total return, and the year to date total return. We feel this is helpful so you can keep track of how your investment choices are doing compared to the other choices that are available to you in each of the different categories. And finally, we'll come to what I think is the most unique section of this worksheet, and that's the current weekly trends. We start out by looking at column V, and in this column we're going to see the week over week trend scores. And what you'll see when you look at this is a quick visual at a glance on how to see which funds have performed the best on a week over week basis and which ones have been the weakest funds. When you see the bright green lights, you'll see that those are the funds that have had the strongest relative performance on a week over week basis. And here we're seeing stocks have finally gotten a little bit of wind and are doing a little bit better than the bonds for one of the few times this year. And when you look at the brighter red lights, you'll see the funds that have underperformed, and in this case it's finally been the bonds, though those have been the place to be this year. As you scroll down, you can look down at column V and see each of the funds in the different category that have performed relatively strong compared to the other ones. And likewise, when you go down, you can see which ones have been the weaker performing funds. So at a glance, it's very easy to see which funds have been the strongest. Next part of this weekly trend section. Each week, we're going to update the trend scores for each of the funds available to you. When it's a negative number, you'll see a red cell, and when you see a positive number, you're going to see a green cell. We tend to like to see column U show either neutral or long-term bullish signals to be in it, and we also like the confirmation of column W and preferably X. We like to have 2 weeks where you have positive trends going on. With that said, we do have that going on in the bonds, so that's an eligible investment for those of you looking to allocate to the bonds. That's not a bad time to get in. Likewise, as we go down to the fixed income funds, we're seeing that we have neutrals. We haven't turned to long-term bullish yet, but we are seeing 3 weeks in a row where we've seen relative strength in the positive numbers. As we scroll down, though, we're starting to see some green in column S, which is the short term, so we may see a strong bear rally come up in this market. And what that means is the market sold off so much that a number of investors are starting to believe that it's a good chance to buy some bargains and so they come in and buy on the weakness. Generally, we're going to like to see this trend progress to where we see a long-term bullish sign, as well as at least 2 weeks of positive performance in column W and X. Generally, we're seeing the first week where things have improved, though we're not into green lights yet, but you are seeing that the numerical values are less negative, and that's showing that there's some strength coming into this market. More aggressive investors can start to take positions in their favorite funds, those showing the strongest relative strength. And more conservative, you'd like to see a couple of weeks at least where the trend may be a sustainable trend. So you have to look at your own investment time horizon as well as your own ability to take on risk in financial markets in order to see which funds and what timing is appropriate for you. With that said, let's go ahead and take a look at how you can use this information to make choices within your 401k plan. To do so, let's click on View, Custom Views, and we'll go to My Current Allocation, and then simply click Show, and we'll get the allocation column. The next step will be to simply slide the slider over, and I generally like to just see where the year-to-date performance numbers are so I can see how the funds have done on a year-to-date basis. And I also like to look at column U, V, and W to see that we are seeing either a long-term bullish or at least a neutral, and then we like to see at least 2 weeks of week-over-week trend scores that are positive. That said, we would like to see a 10% allocation here. With this happening, I feel comfortable that we could go to a 5% allocation to start out with. So let's move 5 over to this bond fund. And in doing so, we're going to go ahead and take the money out of the money market fund. We'll go to a 95%, and then that keeps our allocation there. So now we've moved 5% over, the reason being that we are still neutral, but we do have a short-term and an intermediate-term bullish signal, and then we do have 2 green lights showing on week-over-week basis. So we'll go ahead and move that over. Also, we're seeing some bullish signals coming in here in our fixed income funds. So let's go ahead and we will take a allocation here. On this one, we have a 0% allocation, but because the market is starting to turn around, let's go ahead and take a 5% allocation to this fund group, and we'll take a 5% allocation into this fund here. So let's go 5%. Now again, what we are is we've got more capital that we're going to have to take out of the money market. So with 10% allocated, we're down to 90% in the money market. And what we are going to do is with the 5% allocation we're taking, we're going to move our international allocation down to 25%, and that will keep our target allocation at 100% and our current portfolio at 100%. So let's move our slider back over and go back up to our fixed income where we just allocated this 5%. And let's slide down and see if there's any other for this. We're seeing a lot of red in the growth and income funds, so we're not quite ready to make an allocation, although the numerical values are more positive for each of the funds. So next week we may be able to take an allocation in there. Again, a slight allocation, just because this is a very aggressive time to be in the market if you're trying to catch a strong bounce. Our U.S. equity funds, we're still seeing a lot of red. So we're going to hold off a little bit, but again, we're seeing the numerical values become less negative, so aggressive investors can start to look for the funds to be allocating to. Same thing goes for the international funds. We're seeing that the funds are still showing a lot of red lights, but the numerical values are less negative, so you can take an allocation to that. I generally like to see at least 2 weeks where you're seeing them less negative numbers or positive numbers, and potentially we could see the intermediate or long-term trends starting to turn up. But that may be a little farther due to the strength of this correction that we've seen. And finally, in the sector funds, we're seeing the same thing. We're seeing the numerical values become less negative, but we haven't quite seen this turn around yet. So we're going to hold off making any additional allocations for now. So with that said, we've made these 2 allocations now to very conservative choices, but we are making them because we're seeing at least 2 green lights in columns W and X, and we are seeing a neutral, and we'd prefer to see a green bullish sign, but the neutral is okay to make an allocation. That said, that's our allocation for the week. Those are the changes that we'll make to the portfolio, and we'll keep an eye out for next week, see if this bullish trend continues into the equity markets. To go back to our home page, we'll click with performance columns, click show, and we're back to the page. I'm going to go ahead and save these, and we'll be all set. I hope this has been helpful. Give you some new ideas on how you can use this worksheet as an additional research tool to make choices within your 401k. Also remember that when you make changes in this worksheet, it's just as a placekeeper so you can track your portfolio. The actual changes you'll have to make will have to be made in your website at your company 401k. Those are the changes you need to make, but this worksheet is set up simply so you can monitor the changes and have an additional tool or resource to decide when to make investment changes to your 401k. That's what I've got for this week. I hope it's been helpful. If you'd like to get a copy of this worksheet emailed to you, you can email me right here, jweitzner@greenlightinvestor.org, or you can go to the website and I'll have the worksheet uploaded to the website and you can take a look, and hopefully this is helpful for you making choices within your 401k plan. That's what I've got again for this week. I hope you have a great weekend, and thank you for taking a few moments to go through the 401k GreenLight Investor. Thank you.